Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to completely shatter a word you have probably heard a million times: impossible. Based on 12 years of deep dive experience into this material, I can tell you right now, impossible? It's just not a reality. It's a myth. Today we're unpacking this absolutely wild premise from our source material that sheer belief can literally defy established logic. We've got some incredible historical examples lined up that are going to prove just how fragile the word impossible truly is.
Okay, let's dive into this. There is no word like impossible. These are hypotheses. This right here is the bedrock of our entire explainer today. When someone, even a top-tier expert, tells you something can't be done, they aren't laying down some unbreakable law of the universe. No, they're literally just throwing out an unproven hypothesis. And, as we're about to see, history is just packed with these negative hypotheses that were completely shattered by people who simply refused to listen to the doubt. Section 1. Defying scientific limits, when the experts get it wrong.
Let's look at a classic showdown of expert logic versus human grit. You've got Lord Kelvin, a brilliant, universally respected scientist. But he made this incredibly bold statement based on the science of his time. He claimed it was literally impossible to fly a machine heavier than air, because, gravity would inevitably just pull it down. That was the established scientific fact. But then, enter the Wright brothers. Did they have fancy degrees in aerodynamics? Nope. What they had were bicycle spare parts. And with those random parts, they essentially slapped away all that established logic and turned human beings into birds.
16. That is how many grueling, relentless years the Wright brothers dedicated to getting a plane off the ground. Think about that for a second. For 16 years, they woke up every single day and completely tuned out the so-called experts who kept telling them the laws of physics were totally against them. They traded the comfort of established science for 16 years of just unyielding, stubborn belief.
Which brings us to a kind of humorous but really profound little nugget from our source, the wasp. Now, according to strict aerodynamic principles, well, the ones they used to rely on anyway, it was once said a wasp shouldn't actually be able to fly. Its wings are just way too light for its chunky little body. The physics literally don't add up. But as the source points out, the wasp flies anyway. Why? Well, because the wasp never went to school. It never sat in a classroom to learn the rules that said it couldn't fly. So it just ignores the limits and takes right off.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next point, looking at a really crazy shift in our historical timeline. So, in 1955, another massive scientific mind, Dr. Lee DeForest, confidently stated that man could absolutely never reach the moon. He firmly believed the Earth's atmosphere was a hard stop, a physical impossibility. But once again, no one actually listened to the impossibility. Because fast forward just a few years to 1969, and you've got a man carrying a bag, literally walking on the moon. The source points out how wildly our reality shifts the second a limit gets broken. I mean, space journeys went from being this staunch scientific impossibility to something so conceptually normal today that going to space is jokingly compared to taking a quick tourist trip to Bangkok or Pattaya.
Moving on to Section 2, Overcoming Physical Boundaries, Belief over Diagnosis.
Let's talk about Wilma Rudolph. She was an athlete who tragically contracted polio. Now, put yourself in this scenario for a minute. You're in a hospital room, and on one side, you have absolute medical authority. A doctor looking you dead in the eye, delivering the diagnosis, you will never walk again. But then on the other side, you have the voice of unwavering, maybe even irrational belief, your mother, looking right at you saying, you can walk. I want you to really think about this. If you were sitting in that room, whose voice are you actually going to listen to? The cold logic or the belief?
Well, Wilma Rudolph made her choice. She famously said she chose to believe her mother over the doctor. And what happens when you flat out reject a definitive medical limitation? 3. That's the number of Olympic gold medals she went on to win. She didn't just figure out how to walk again. She became a world-class champion athlete, completely and utterly dismantling that absolute physical limit placed on her by a medical professional. Just incredible.
Which leads us into Section 3, Rewriting Mental Expectations, the Power of a Mother's Words.
I want to take you through a really fateful day in history. Picture this. An 8-year-old boy named Albert Einstein comes home from school and hands a sealed letter from his principal directly to his mom. His mother opens it, reads the letter silently, and tears immediately well up in her eyes. She looks down at young Albert and tells him that starting tomorrow, he's not going back to that school. Instead, she is going to teach him at home.
Naturally, the young boy wants to know why, and this is exactly what she translated for him. She said, "Your child is a genius. He has great power. Our school is not capable of giving good education to your child." Basically, she told him his teachers felt they literally weren't smart enough to teach someone with a mind as brilliant as his. Hearing this, little Albert became incredibly happy and just deeply motivated. This massive injection of belief totally empowered him. And, well, history speaks for itself. He grew up to be one of the greatest scientific minds the world has ever known.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the dramatic irony of it all. Years and years later, long after his mother had passed away, and he was already this wildly successful, world-famous scientist, Einstein was moving houses. And while he was packing, he found this folded, dust-covered piece of white paper hidden in a drawer. He wiped away the dust, opened it up, and it was that exact letter from his childhood principal. As he read it, he broke down crying. Because here is what the letter actually said. "Your child is feeble-minded. He is not capable of our school. Don't send him to our school. Teach him by your own." His mother had read it completely wrong on purpose. She took this devastating, authoritative diagnosis of her son's mental capacity and she just flipped it, transforming it into a lifelong mandate of sheer genius.
Bringing it all together, Section 4, the power of belief, refusing to listen.
It really all boils down to this core philosophy from our source material today. Never ever listen to anyone, never ever believe anybody who says that you cannot do. The message here is so passionate, so direct. When somebody hands you an impossibility, you need to mentally just slap away those negative opinions. When the whole world confidently tells you that you can't do something, your only reply should be an equally confident, "We will do."
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought, and I want you to really mull this over. Who in your life is telling you it's impossible, and how are you going to prove them wrong? Whether it's a celebrated expert, a doctor, a principal, or just society as a whole, remember that impossible is literally nothing more than an unproven hypothesis. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope these stories leave you feeling fired up and ready to challenge your own limitations. Until next time, keep defying the logic.